Hey everybody, this is Hector with the Faith and Fandom podcast, and I'm excited today to have Hugo. It is Hugo Soto, right?
Yes, yeah.
Right. Okay. I totally. It's one of those things you can say someone's name how you think it is in your head forever, and it be, wrong. I don't know if I've actually said your name out loud before.
You know what? Don't feel bad because I'm pretty much the same way. Like I probably couldn't say your last name properly if I tried.
Well, like one of the funniest things for me was that at my wedding rehearsal, I got in trouble with my mother-in-law, not my mother-in-law, my with my grandmother, because the dude said our name wrong in the wedding rehearsal, and
she got upset.
She got upset, but the actual fact is he was saying it how I said it.
Yeah.
So I had been saying my own name wrong for, I guess, years, like 21 or 2 years of my life.
Yeah,
I've been saying my own name wrong. So that's a thing.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, I guess that's the perfect time to find out, right?
Right. So, but she went all dramatic and ham, like, "No, your name is Mirai," and like slamming on the tables and stuff. So that was totally a thing.
Wow.
I was like, okay,
weddings, man.
Yeah. So we learned. We learned our name the hard way, so now everybody knows your name is Hugo Soto, and
yeah,
which straight up sounds like a low grade Batman villain.
It's funny because it's I'm biracial. My mom's white, my dad's Mexican, and in school everybody would always go Hugo Soto, like you sound like a sumo wrestler. And I was like, no, I don't think so. And they go, no, think about it. Your name is Hugo Soto. I was like, okay.
You could be a Batman villain. You could be a sumo wrestler. You could be a Star Wars character. You literally have, the full base covered. With me, I'm just generically Spanish. That's what people are going to get from me. But, you've got all these cool options.
Well, you say that, but... It wasn't until Facebook I felt super unique having Hugo as my name, until especially Soto, and even my middle name. I was like, okay, nobody has this setup of names. And I sit there when Facebook very first come out, and I was like, you know what? Let me see if there's any other Hugo A. Sotos out there. And I felt very small very quickly. Like I never again have I felt like my name was just uniquely awesome, because it is not. It is ridiculous. I think I pulled up at the time, again, Facebook was brand new. I think I pulled up 300 people with the same Hugo A. Soto name, and it was just like, this is ridiculous. And then to sit there and found out that some of them were juniors because I'm a junior, so it was just like, great, it's no way am I anymore.
So I feel you.
Yeah. So yeah, it's one of those things you're like, oh, I'm super unique and around normal, and I say normal just like normal names, not a lot of Spanish. You feel unique, but then you find out you're not. And so it's
So this portion of the podcast is brought to you by Ancestry.com. And learn more about your name's uniqueness by clicking here. Bloop.
Exactly.
So I've got Hugo with me talking today because Hugo is about to embark on a start from scratch Comicon that he has been putting together, and that's exciting for me. Just been watching this progress unfold, and it's a show I'm going to be at, and I'm pretty excited just about how he's put it together, and really proud of the work he's done. But we're going to talk to Hugo about what that process has looked like, and just get some insight on that and some wisdom. We're going to talk about his show and all these things. But you and I have known, at least sort of known each other. I mean, we've known each other a lot more in the last couple of years, but we met I think at Myrtle Beach, that Comic-Con, the one that had the 2 floors with the stairs.
Yeah.
I think or did we meet before that?
You know what? I remember seeing you at a show and seeing you set up and going Faith and Fandom. And I was like, I don't know what that's about. So we just kind of looked. I want to say it was Myrtle Beach. And I come home, and I was like, man, there's this guy there. He had a book that was called Faith and Fandom. I wanted to speak to him, but I didn't get a chance. But I was telling my wife, I was like, but I think it'd be really cool because I think it's a Christian thing. And I was like, that'd be really awesome. Being in this convention world for the last, I think, year and a half or two before we met, I was like, this is actually pretty cool to meet another Christian. So let's see what's up. And I think it was actually Fayetteville was the first time we actually approached you. And I was like, hey, man, I saw you at a show. I wanted to talk to you, but I couldn't see you, or I didn't see you. But I wanted to swing by now and just kind of talk to you and see what you're about. And from there, it just kind of, blossomed into this pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
So,
and that's one of the things I can say about Hugo's family. And they are starting a Comicon from scratch, but they've been involved in the con industry, probably about the length of time I have, if not longer. Like, how long have you been in the con world, period?
I think my first con was, 6-7 years ago. When we actually went to our very first, got my very first taste of a convention. And actually it was a one-day dealer room here in Savannah. It was a guy who loved Transformers, and he was like, hey, I think I saw it in the paper, or somebody said something about it being in the paper. And like, hey, there's this guy in Savannah. He's doing a comic convention. You should check it out. And I went and checked it out. And luckily for me, I'm not a very good reader, and I'm pretty lazy when it comes to reading sometimes. But luckily for me, it wasn't just comics. It was actually a lot of toys that I liked. So I was like, wow, I don't have to use eBay to do this. I can actually come to a convention. So that's kind of where it started about 7 years ago. Really just kind of, and we helped out the very next show he did. So we've been kind of in this world ever since then.
Yeah, that's about the same time I've been doing this with Faith and Fandom. I had like maybe 2 years or 3 years ahead of that where I was just attending. And just getting a vibe for it. But yeah, Faith and Fandom is, it'll turn 7 years old like in 2020. So that's really cool. Just so we've been in the same bubble area together for a while, and you've helped run shows before. You've been involved in a lot of different aspects of it. So, and you've been a big supporter of ours too, from trying to get us to shows you were at, to promoting the books, to being encouraging with panels and stuff like that. You guys have been a really big just an encouragement with us. And if you own any copies of Faith and Fandom out there, y'all, you can find Hugo and Amanda's name, which is his wife, and the thank yous of, I don't know, probably at least the last 3 or 4 books.
Just and because I have to say, I don't mean to cut you off, but it's actually very humbling, because we're just being who we are. I just, I was very humble when you sent me that picture, letting me know that we were being thanked in the book. So.
Well, that's one of the things, dude. Like, you know what it's like from just the dealer, vendor, artist aspect of it. Like, there's not a lot of, I don't know, it can be really that situation of where there's not a lot of people really being encouraging. It's more like, I'm here to get mine, stay out of my lane.
Very much so.
And so to find people that are encouraging as vendors is one thing, but to find people that actually invest and believe in what you're doing, that's pretty rare. And I could say, for Vincent and I both, that was like just the way that you loved on us. Even the first time we did a show with you in Savannah was like, oh, okay. Look, yeah, that's fancy. But it's been a blessing to us just knowing you guys, and even like last year getting to hang out with you at Conapalooza and play Pokemon, all that stuff. So we're excited for this.
Got our first Mewtwo that day, man. That was that
was
was
that
an
your
epic
first
weekend.
Mewtwo? I don't think I got one that day.
No, come on, you won, right? You won the raid with us.
I did, but I don't think I got it.
But you don't. Yeah.
I didn't get it.
Okay, yeah.
I was in the raid, but I totally didn't get it.
Man.
But, it is what it is. But all this aside, so you have a Comicon coming up in Savannah, Georgia, October 26th
and 27th.
26th and 27th at the big, fancy, newer convention center in Savannah.
Yeah.
Like, what's the name on that place?
That is actually the International Trade and Convention Center.
Ooh. Like, the first time I drove by it was, earlier this year. And it looked so fancy and official from the road that I thought it was a government thing. Because when it said international trade, I'm like, no, that's like the IRS or something.
It's funny because I actually thought the same thing. I was like, that's not a building we can go and hang out at. That's and then like the hotel right next to it is the Westin, which is a very fancy, high-to-do kind of hotel. So it was one of those things where you were like, okay, that's a government building and that's where they stay, so that makes sense. So you were not the only one to think that.
So I straight up drove right past it and ended up in Savannah at the wrong address and then had to turn around and go like 11 miles the other way.
Oh, man.
But, it is what it is. So it's going to be there October 26th and 27th. So let me ask, why? Why are you doing this? What got you to the point where you're doing this big endeavor? Because, to me, it'd be one thing to do a small show in a small venue with low overhead and low risk and stuff like that, and just do a pretty much just an artist alley expo, But because I've been planning that, maybe even doing something at my church or a community college or something like that. But you're going ham, you've got this big convention center. You've got actual celebrities and all this stuff. So why do a show like this, and why do it this big out the gate?
Like you said, we've been in this world now for 7 years, like we discussed, and in no way, shape, or form did I ever think, or could I have ever sat down 7 years ago and said, hey, this is where we're going to be in 7 years. This is my goal. I started in it and really fell in love with the aspect of going to conventions, in the behind the scenes. I think it was probably 2 or 3 years after my first show that I actually went as a spectator and was like, I don't like this. I definitely prefer to be a vendor. But, moving forward, we helped build a show here in Savannah, and we put 6 years into that show, trying to help build it and make it the kind of show we felt Savannah needed. Like all things, it was not... I'm trying to think of how to say this. It was not what it was supposed to be. We were sold that it was going to be our convention as a team, and we were all going to be part of it, and everything was going to be ours as a whole, as a team. 2 years ago, it fell apart. The person we were working with, a lot of things happened in the negative. And we felt like it was up to us to step away, to just kind of leave it alone. 6 months went by, tempers had kind of calmed down. My wife and I were talking with a friend of ours, and he was like, man, are you doing another show? And I said, man, I think we're done. As much as I love it, as much as I love the working with people and meeting new people and meeting vendors and talking with vendors, I just think we're done. It's a bittersweet situation right now, and it kind of stinks. He kind of pushed me. He kind of egged me on a little bit. He's like, "Come on, man, we could do it. Me and you, we could do our own thing." And I really didn't want to be that guy that, well, I'm going to come out and go against you, my former partner, to show you. So it was one of those things where I prayed about it, and I prayed and I prayed, and I was like, I don't know where God's leading me on this one, but I feel like the calling's there, and it's not a personal pursuit. It was just I didn't see any reason why we shouldn't chase our dream. You know what I mean? Um, I started thinking about it as it's just like and it probably sounds dumb, but it's just like Walmart versus Kroger. Kroger and Walmart are somewhat the same. They're not going to back down. They're not going to stop doing what they do, even if one's across the street from the other. Business is business, and where each con's different, and I'm sure you know that because you go to so many. Each con is different from another. You got your good ones, you got your bad ones, and it is what it is. I had a dream to see a Dragon Con-esque convention here in Savannah. Savannah has so much to offer in its tourism, in its schools. I felt like it was a great place to really, that something could really happen if somebody would do it right and not look at it from a selfish aspect or a what can I build for me aspect. So we sat down and we talked and we prayed about it. And I was like, you know what? If we do this, because there are so many other shows in the area, I don't want to be white noise. I want to come out swinging. I want to come out showing people that we're a contender. I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this now for 6 years. This isn't some guy that just, hey, I went to one convention and now I want to be a con runner, a promoter. This is a passion, and again, as dumb as it may sound, it's not about the money. It's about putting on a great show that Savannah can come out and see, and Savannah can come out and enjoy. And that's really what, when we sat down and we talked about it, that's what we agreed on, that this would be something that is bigger than all of us. We don't walk around and say, look at my show, look at my show. And actually, it's funny because a lot of people just look at us as promoters. They don't even know that we own the show. When we talk to them, they're like, oh, okay, well, we'll get with you later. And it's because we don't want to have that mindset of, we're better than other people. You know what I mean? I've met a lot of promoters over the years who are just extremely cocky. And they're extremely, I'm not going to say selfish, but they're definitely out for number one. And it is what it is. I'm not trying to talk bad about anybody, but it's one of those things where that's not who I am. And if that works for you and your show is doing great, more power to you. It's an awesome show. An awesome show is an awesome show. And it is what it is. But we wanted to come from the aspect of passionate fans who are passionate about what they love, about the nerd life, and try to bring the best to Savannah. So my wife and I have spent the last year going to other conventions and talking to vendors and really trying to, not going for the safe vendors. Like, okay, here's a guy who does a little bit of comic books. We need one comic book vendor. We need one toy vendor. It's like, okay, who has the biggest? Who has the best at a show? And we've hit everybody. Like, hey, here's our flyer. We'd love to have you. Here's our show. It's a great lineup. We knew with a great lineup, we could get people to back us. But if we come out slowly but surely, man, it would take time. And with so many cons in the area, we felt like it would be, again, white noise. So it was come out swinging and just, kind of see what God does. And I have to say, man, over the last year, it's been very humbling. We've had a lot of people step out and offer their help and offer to help us that we didn't see it coming. And it's not all rainbows and butterflies, and I wish it was, man, because there were weeks where we didn't hear anything from anybody, and it was tough. But yeah, man, we just felt like the best way to come out was to come out strong. So that's kind of why we went with the guest we did. We didn't want to settle for, and again, not trying to talk bad about anybody, but we didn't want to go for a lower level celebrity, somebody who was not well known and a safe bet. We figured if we were going to do it, let's go all out. Let's really take God on His word and take that leap of faith.
Not that I need you to flex your bank account here or anything, but like how big of a financial like obligation, risk, or investment is this for you and your family?
I will say if this does not pan out, we will be homeless.
Yikes!
Yeah.
You heard it here, folks.
I say that jokingly only because, man, as much as I prayed, I feel a peace in my heart about it. But it is definitely one of those things where, we sat down as a family and we're like, listen, this is the potential. If everything goes right, this is how it's going to look. This is how it's going to work out. But when you take a leap of faith, not everything works out the way you're planning it. So there was, again, a few times where we sat down and we're like, is this going to work? And we would be in church Sunday morning, again, as a family, praise and worship in tears because, our hearts were heavy that we didn't know how we were going to make it. And again, man, God really stepped in. And, it's not one of those things, again, this is not something simple that you can step in and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to put a show together next month, and it's going to be amazing. A lot of planning. And again, it is not a cheap thing. It takes a good bit of money to do this. And again, that's not me trying to flex or anything like that. I'm not trying to say, whatever. It's just, it's scary. I'll say that. It's super scary, especially when you do it right. We're a legit convention. We are registered through the not a business association, but we have the business license. We're registered through the IRS. The convention center we use, they are on point. We have to have paid security. We have to have paid volunteers from their side. They won't allow us to have, or food vendors have to be paid up and do buyouts if we have food trucks and stuff. It is not a cheap endeavor. I'll say that. So yeah, if it doesn't, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Has there been any? Because you said you pulled the trigger on this like a year ago, and you've been working towards it. Has there been any like maybe we need to back out of this kind of vibe? Has there been some butterflies? Where you been with that? Have you been solid? I know you've said you've been praying about it and everything, but have you been solid in this the whole time? Has there been concerns? What's it look like?
Man, if I told you I had nerves of steel and I never questioned at all, I would be lying. So my partner, when we started this, he was like, hey, listen, we're going to do this whole thing 50-50. It's going to be amazing. I said, all right, cool. We signed a contract on the building, and 2 weeks later he goes, hey man, I'm not gonna be able to do this. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me, man. We signed up for this. And he goes, I get that, but I just don't, if this doesn't pan out, I'm not gonna be able to make it. And I was like, dude, you cannot leave me. We've already signed the contract. There is no backing out. We've signed the contract with the convention center. We've signed the contract with a few celebrities. Now's not the time to say, you know what, I'm having second thoughts. And that was a tough blow. That was really hard. I came home and I told my wife, and she was not happy. And it was one of those, I don't know what we're going to do, And that was one of those Sundays we were in praise and worship in tears because they sing the song. We sing a song in church. This is how I fight my battles.
Right.
And man, let me tell you, that song hit us like a ton of bricks that day. Because again, we were not knowing if we were going to be able to back out and not take a financial hit from the convention center, or the celebrities. We had already paid deposits for some of the celebrities, and they were like, "Listen, if you cancel, you not get this deposit back." And I was like, "That's not good." Because again, you see our lineup, and these guys are not cheap. So it was scary. But we prayed about it, and we cried, and it's we trusted God. And me and my me and my partner talked, and I said, which I still consider him my partner because he still helps. He actually runs our website. He helps out with a lot of the technical issues we have on the technical side with computers and stuff. He does a lot of it. So he built our website, which is, to me, is an amazing website. And he helps out a lot. So, I mean, he told me, he's like, listen, I can't cover the financial burden of this, but man, I am here for you every step of the way. Anything I could do to help, I'm here. So moral support, and knowledge, because he helps when it comes to contracts, because he is an in-depth, let me sit down and read a 10-page contract and make sure we're good before we sign. So that helps too. But yeah, there's been a few bumps. So
How are you feeling about it? Like, about what are we, like 6 weeks away?
Yeah, 6 weeks away. I'm really excited, and I tell you that because I see it coming together. I really do. There are, like I've said, there's a lot of people kind of coming out of the woodwork who I wouldn't normally have asked for help because I didn't know if they were interested in helping. And they stepped out and they're like, "Hey, listen, I heard about your show. I hear you're on your own. So let's see what we can do to help." A lot of businesses have stepped in and wanted to hand out flyers and help promote and stuff like that. We are promoting like crazy in the Savannah area. We're running ads constantly on Facebook. We're getting a lot of positive feedback from Facebook, a lot of positive reactions outside in the greater Savannah area. So right now, man, it's just one of those. It's one of those hurry up and wait. I'm a kind of a very impatient person. So it's just one of those. All right, man, let's hurry up and get it done. Let's hurry up and have the show so everybody can be happy and we can be done. The stress level can go down and we can relax. But it's okay, and we're not one of those last minute. Let's wait to the last minute to get it done kind of people. So we've been slowly but surely going through everything to make sure we have it covered. So at this point in the game, I'm excited. I know a lot of the vendors we have, a lot of great video game vendors, a lot of good comic book vendors, some good toy vendors, a couple anime vendors, which I'm really excited about. So yeah, I think I'm excited. A lot of good artists. Let me not forget them. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be a really great show.
So tell us about your guest list so far of like what you mentioned your celebrities. Who are your celebrities?
All right, so it's funny when we first sat down and said, "Listen, we're gonna do this show. Who can we get to be a headline?" To me, off the bat, Ernie Hudson. I feel like Ernie Hudson is a hugely iconic character from his work on Ghostbusters. I know he's done a lot more. He was in The Crow. He was in Oz. He's actually, if you ever watch Psych, he's actually my favorite dad in Psych because Gus had two dads. So, I'm a little more partial to Ernie Hudson. We met him at Fayetteville. Mm-hmm. No, Raleigh. No, what was it? RaleighCon. We met him at RaleighCon for the first time. Super nice guy, taller than I thought he would be. I really respected him because he reached out and he shook my hand real firm, and he looked me square in the eye and he said, "Son, you have a beautiful family. You are a very lucky man. You are blessed." And I just thought that it was funny he took the time to actually speak, because you know as well as I do, and those photo shoots, buddy, you're in and you're out. There is no high-fiving it, I love you. You're in, you're out. Right. So the fact that he took the time, I was like, this guy's awesome. Saw him again at Conapalooza, and actually that's the main reason we went, was to get him, talk to him about the show. And we went up there and talked with him, and he seemed very interested. It blows my mind how many people have never been to Savannah. So I was like, listen, here's a great opportunity. We want you to come to Savannah. And truly, again, in our minds, we have all these big plans, and they didn't always work out. But, Savannah is known to be a haunted ghost town. So we were actually going to do a VIP package to have Ernie Hudson come down, and we were going to do a ghost tour with a Ghostbuster and sell VIP tickets so you can go on this hour-long tour of the haunted Savannah with Ernie Hudson, the Ghostbuster. were unable to work that out. He was definitely not into the idea of having to ride a trolley around for a couple hours. So it really broke my heart, as excited as I was. But that's, it is what it is. So so we got him again. That was my first pick. We kind of dabbled around with other people. Met a guy, went through an agent who has Jason, the original Power Ranger, and he represents Zach, the original Black Power Ranger. And I was like, well, you know what? These guys are my childhood personally. Growing up in the early '90s, it was Ninja Turtles, it was Batman, but then when Power Rangers come out, man, that was my world. I spent a lot of years running around telling people I was a Power Ranger. It's kind of ridiculous and somewhat embarrassing a little bit. But
did I ever tell you my Power Ranger story?
No, go ahead.
Okay, this just a quick side note. So, I was... How old are you, dude, by the way?
I'll actually be 34 this year.
Okay.
I'll actually turn 34 the weekend before our show.
Okay, sweet. So I got a few years on you. I was like late middle school, early high school when Power Rangers dropped.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. It was in that bubble of, puberty-esque region.
Yeah.
But, so I was... it was season 1 had just happened, and they were doing like the mall tours with the Power Rangers, and my area has like a Fayetteville Generals baseball stadium, like it's just a minor league team, whatever. So there was a promotion for that because it was sort of big in after season 1, but it wasn't the phenomenon it was yet.
Yeah.
And so they brought out Jason David Frank and David Yost, right? The Blue Ranger?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. They brought Jason David Frank and David Yost out there to the baseball stadium to sign autographs before the game. And so me and my other nerdy middle school buddy went to there to meet them, get something autographed, and just meet them. And they were only there, dude, like an hour flat, like in and out. And then they rode away in a limo, and 2 girls got in a fist fight over Jason David Frank's water bottle. So, it was a cool experience meeting them. But then, people were still lining up because no one said that they were gone. Like the people had come in later.
Yeah.
So people were in line. So me and my friend Gary, this was, middle school idiocracy, we sat down in their chairs, and eventually people just approached us, and we started signing autographs. And
are you serious?
Straight signing autographs. And they're like, well, who are you in the show? I'm like, we are in season 2. We are Bulk and Skull's new sidekicks. And we signed autographs for a solid half hour before security got us. And,
dude, that is awesome.
So we straight up had people in line waiting to meet Power Rangers, and we straight shenanigan to that, and it was great. It's it's my favorite Power Ranger experience. And years later, I'm doing these cons and I run into Jason David Frank, and I'm like, and that's just my first thought. It's like I got my little middle school fame, from you.
Yeah.
So you've got those 2 Rangers, and what else was on your who else was on your radar in the process?
It's we met a lot of people from My Hero, and all but begged them to be a part of the show. And I think because a lot of them saw us as a first-year show, which we are. Unfortunately, that's how people see us, even though we've ran shows for years. It's been hard to try to sign any of them. So as much as we wanted to have them, it didn't work out for them. So we were like, all right, listen, we want voice actors. And as bad as it is, we wanted to make sure we had an equal setup. So we wanted 3 girls, 3 guys, call it a day. a lot of the more predominant females we could think of were ridiculously expensive, on words up of $18,000 guarantees and higher.
Woo!
And yeah, we were like, I mean, because the biggest thing you could do is to go through your fandom. Okay, what do you like? So I looked at Tara Strong. I was like, Tara Strong would be great because she's done so much. We've met her before. She's super sweet. Let's get her 18 Gs. And I was like, that's not gonna happen. My wife loves X-Files, which I know X-Files has a huge following. So I said, well, let's maybe Gillian Anderson. X-Files hasn't been big in a while, and this is before they announced the new series. So I was like, well, we'll check into Gillian Anderson. And I sent a guy an email, and he was like, hey, listen, Gillian Anderson's like $60,000, $70,000 guaranteed. And I was like, that's not happening either. So, our feelings were getting hurt pretty quickly. So I was like, all right, listen, we're not going to be able to do 50-50. We're just going to have to take what we can get. And in a sense, hope nobody tries to run off at the mouth. Because, again, you know how people are in the con scene. Why are you only having guys and no girls? Girls need representation too. And I'm with that, but you kind of have to take what you can get sometimes. Right. So in doing that, one guy that kept popping up was Jim Cummings. And I was like, well, Jim Cummings, that's cool. He did Winnie the Pooh. He did Tigger. And I was like, yeah, I don't know.
Darkwing Duck for life.
And then, yes. And then somebody come up, and I think I IMBD'd, or my wife IMBD'd, and she's like, he did Darkwing Duck. And I was like, whoa, wait. And she goes, yeah, he did Darkwing Duck. And I was like, oh, that's right. I got to get him. So I sent the agent an email the next day, and I was like, I want Jim Cummings, and I want to sign him now. And he's like, let me check. And he goes, yep, he's available. Here you go. So we got him. And we were super excited about that. And then we didn't know where we were going from there. So, at the point we had Ernie Hudson, we had 2 Power Rangers, and we had Jim Cummings. So we were really trying to go. We tried to get Christopher Sabat for All Might and Dragon Ball, and it just wasn't working out for that. So we're like, okay, well, who can we get? We need somebody else. I just don't want to do 4 guests. We could do 4 guests, but, we'll see. And then I got a phone call. I got a phone call from the agent who represents Johnny Young and Veronica Taylor, which we actually wanted Veronica Taylor in the very beginning. But I think she said she had something she had to do, so she wasn't going to be able to make it. But I got a phone call back in April or May, letting me know that they were signed up for a show and they no longer wanted to do that show. That they had heard some things and they no longer wanted to come to the Savannah area to do that show. So if we were still available, excuse me. Oh, excuse me. If we still had the availability to have them, they were very interested. And I said, man, if you can get me Johnny Young for sure, definitely. I'm definitely interested in Veronica Taylor as well. I think we're huge Pokemon fans too, so right. It was just one of those things where, again, we had it in our minds how we wanted it to go. Oh, excuse me. We had it in our minds how we wanted it to go.
Y'all need to come to this show because he's getting like pneumonia just trying to prepare for
it. So. I've been fighting this thing for a week now. It's ridiculous. I can't stop coughing. But no, it's one of those things where, again, like I said, you have it in your mind how you want to go and how you can make it beautiful, and then it doesn't work out that way. So you kind of got to roll the punches. So I sat back and me and my wife sat down and we looked at it and we said, listen, I think this will be a huge cast to bring in. One thing that kind of bugs me, and I know it's nobody's fault. A lot of people see it as a huge Power Ranger show, because a lot of people don't know that Johnny Young Bosch actually has a huge voice acting career in
Yeah,
anime.
dude, his voice acting stuff is ridiculous.
It is, and that's the main reason we wanted him. Like, I mean, I love Johnny Young. Don't get me wrong; he was actually one of my favorite of the three that replaced the original Rangers. He was my favorite, and always has been. So it's super exciting to be able to meet him. But with already having two Rangers, we didn't want to bring in more.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the lineup of his credentials when it comes to anime, I was like, dude, we'd be stupid to pass up on it. You know, I mean, for him to be able to come in and be a part of our show with all the anime he's done, and again with this huge anime community we have here in Savannah, I was like, we need to bring him in. So, yeah, I mean that's pretty much how we got our lineup. You know, there are a lot of people who were very interested that we talked to that said, you know, hey, I can't do it this year, but again, I'd love to come to Savannah. My understanding is everybody in our lineup has never ever been to Savannah, and they cannot wait. They cannot wait to come and see, you know, kind of how Savannah is. And I have a few people, you know, lined up to kind of help show them around some of the better areas downtown to kind of give them a good taste of, you know, what Savannah has to offer.
That's awesome, man. So let me ask you this: outside of, you know, obviously not losing your house or anything, you know, that's a goal.
Yes, it is.
So beyond that being a goal, what will it take for you to consider this show a success?
You know, again, this isn't about money. So I mean, truthfully, man, I can make all the money in the world. That means nothing to me. What I would sit back and say that made this show a success is if every person that leaves had an experience. You know what I mean? When I go to conventions, I don't go because, I could buy new things or, I could meet this person. I mean, those are perks of the convention scene, but it's to me, it's being able to go and make that friendship. I mean, if it wasn't for conventions, you and I would have never met. Right. If it wasn't for mine and your friendship, we wouldn't be able to have met, you know, some of our good friends, Rob and Nina Budd.
Yeah.
And these are people that, you know, over the years we've been able to hang out with and talk with. So to be able to have every person that leaves, you know, with a smile on their face saying, man, I had an amazing time. I can't wait for next year. That, to me, that's going to be the success. That's when I'll say we did it. So, yeah, I mean, that's obviously the money would be a huge burden lifted. But my thoughts are kind of like Field of Dreams, man. If you build it, they'll come. If you build it worthy enough of the nerd will show. So that's why we're trying to hit every aspect of nerdisms to be able to have everybody be able to come and say they had a great time. So
what's in it? Do you have an attendance goal? Like of how many people you're going to see through the doors?
Well, that right there is actually a tricky situation. I would love to see. I believe the full capacity of the convention center is roughly 10,000, maybe a little more. And you know, you and I again have been going to bigger shows. Know that 10,000 is kind of a smaller number. I know we went to MomoCon. MomoCon had 20 to 30,000 people on a Friday in the door, and apparently they were saying that they get upwards of 80,000 during the weekend. That's a ridiculous number of people. So to look at their show compared to ours are smaller numbers. But right now, I'm just hoping to get, I'd say 5,000. We could do 5,000 first year out the bat. I mean, I would be happy with those numbers. And now that's tickets sold. That's not people through the door because, you know, children 12 and under are free. So there's that. But yeah, I mean, we could get 5,000 tickets sold. I mean, I think that'd be awesome. To be able to do that.
Okay. So I know that like with some people, they go into this with next year already in mind. Do you, are you at the point of we need to wait and see? Are you already planning? Are you already got dates? Like what's like where are you at for beyond this?
Well, as much as it stresses my wife out, we've talked about next year. Go ahead and start to plan. So nothing is written in stone, obviously, because if this doesn't work out, it's kind of hard to book a convention when you're living in your car. So the way we're looking at it now is we got a lot of stuff in the works. I'll say that. We got a lot of stuff planning for next year to make it even bigger, even better. We both have day jobs, so this is not a necessary income. So anything that we profit from this goes straight into next year.
Okay.
This is not going to be a let's go out here and go crazy and vacation. This is definitely going to be, we did it, praise God. Where can we go from here? And again, we've had a lot of people reach out wanting to set up some things that we've seen at other shows that I thought would be pretty cool. And then some celebrity guests who have reached out and said, listen, we want to be a part of the show next year. Let us know when you're ready to sign the contract, and I'll send the contract over. So those are things that we're like, okay, we can do more guests next year and bigger guests and bigger events than what we have this year. So there's definitely that in the back of my head. It's okay, let's get through this, but definitely have an eye on next year.
Okay. So, like, I know we talked about guests and all this stuff, that is standard. What's unique about your show?
I don't know, man. I really don't. I mean, I hadn't even thought about that.
I mean, there's some stuff. I mean, obviously, you've got, Savannah and the convention center there is like, I've been to one show there, and there's a lot of potential for it. And I think you've really, like, looked at the potential for the building.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if you had anything, like, you can get this year. Because, like, one of my favorite things that, unique little touches at, like, Fayetteville. You've been to Fayetteville. Yeah, obviously, we mentioned that, is that they have the trapeze artists and stuff like that, like, going the whole time. I've been to shows that, there's actually a dude that was talking to him at GalaxyCon. He's a cosplayer that also does fire twirling.
Awesome.
And he wants to, and like he had said he wanted to come to your show, and but he wanted to like set up on the like outside by the water.
Yeah. And
just like twirl like fire batons and junk. Like, so he's like got a whole set for it, and I was like, okay, cool.
Well, that is one thing that kind of makes us unique. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I've never been to every convention in the world. I do watch a lot of videos on YouTube about other conventions. One thing that is very unique to ours is the riverfront. We're right there. When you walk out the front door of the convention center, you're looking at downtown Savannah, historic downtown Savannah, River Street. Excuse me, and you have all those, the river right there. You see all the ships and everything. So it's definitely a unique area compared to your normal convention center, which is usually, landlocked. So you have a lot of buildings around and stuff like that. So definitely the landscape of our show is a lot different from most.
So are you having like ferries and stuff since it's attached to the river?
There is. We actually have a ferry that'll run every 15 minutes. That'll take people across the street to River Street, and then they'll come back across the way to the convention center.
Now, is that something you had to pay for, or is that the city? What is the...
anytime an event is hosted at the convention center, it actually runs for free. So that's actually something that's kind of like a package deal. Once you get the convention center, they'll run it all day. I believe it runs until 12 p.m. I think it's when it stops. 12 a.m. Excuse me, 12 a.m.
And I know we haven't like worked out like official stuff, but like you've talked about having like an after party for Saturday, and we're doing a Geek Church Sunday morning, and there's a lot of cool stuff that I've seen that you guys have really put a lot of heart and effort into just making this a really good show. And
the biggest thing right now is just really trying to figure out what works for us. We've gone to so many shows. We're kind of taking a little bit of everything that we've seen that's really been impressive to us and trying to see if it'll work for us, but at the same time finding out what works for us as a show ourselves. So trying to kind of find out our identity in the whole thing. But one thing I'm really excited about is Geek Church. That's something I've been very passionate about. We try to tell everybody we can. We actually have a lot of. One thing I'm very excited about is the amount of churches we have involved in this show. And it's not a church-based show. We're not being financed through any churches or anything like that. What I mean is the congregations of these churches. I have artists, people who love to draw and are very talented, who are pastors in the churches who are coming. We have worship leaders who are very passionate in the things they do, that they're going to be there. A lot of comic book artists who have made their own comics. They're comic book artists and illustrators and inkers who are Christians and who love God and who are very passionate about things of the nerdy realm that are coming. So it's a lot of positivity that we're trying to push into this, because there is a you've been to Fayetteville, so you have the other end of that where people stand outside and holler, you're going to hell, versus when we're inside and hey man, let's just hang out. If you want to talk, we'll talk. If you don't want to talk, you don't have to talk. But we have that common ground of loving Harry Potter and Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. So I'm very excited about those things. We've never
for y'all too that listening. This is how cool Hugo and Amanda are when it comes to like stuff like Faith and Fandom and all that. That they had invited me to be at a show previously and I couldn't make it, so they bought a metric ton of books, of Faith and Fandom books to give out to people at the Geek Church they were going to have at the show they were at. That's the kind of dedication that they have in this. So they're not they're not. This isn't their first rodeo.
Man, and again, it's funny how God worked with that, because that didn't pan out like I was hoping. I guess sometimes I have high hopes, and I was hoping to walk in that door that morning and see 200-300 people in the auditorium that day, and there wasn't. There was probably I'd probably say 10 of us all together. But what's awesome about that is that one of the guys there was actually a chaplain in the military, and he was like, man, I didn't know conventions existed, and I definitely didn't know things like this existed in conventions. And we got to talking. He was saying a lot of his guys in his unit were nerdy guys, and I was like, you know what, man, I don't know much about the military life. I know a lot of those guys go through a lot of stuff, constantly moving, being overseas, away from their family and stuff. And I was like, sometimes you just kind of need God, but in a different way. So we were actually able to give him a lot of the, or a few of the devotionals, and he was super excited to be able to have that and get to his guys. So
again, that's awesome. Man, I didn't know that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where again you plan it, and God says, "Nah, I got something different, but it's going to work out in my favor anyway," and I'm down with it. So it was really exciting to be able to have that opportunity. And then the girl that was running, she was behind a table. I'm not sure what they were doing at the convention center because they were using a different portion of it. She was singing some of the hymns. So we went up there and gave her one, and she was really appreciative of it. So, God opened the doors, and it's, we're all in this together, man. You know what I mean? This is not a, it's not a you do, we do. This is a team effort, definitely.
So just we're gonna need to wrap up just to keep this remotely palatable before we start putting people to sleep with, because we, it's a good conversation. Let me ask you. So, what do you need people to know? What do you want them to take away from this about what your show is? I think you've shared a lot of that. So, two things. The last two things I'm just going to ask you. What do you want people to know if they've missed everything else you said? What do you want them to know? But then the other question is this: what advice do you have to people that want to start a convention from scratch?
What I want people to know about our convention. Our convention is not your typical business-oriented convention. Our convention is a fan-based, passionate convention that is here to serve the fans and not to necessarily turn a profit. Obviously, we are asking for money, but there again, when you come in here, it's not going to be, oh, they're nickel and diming us. It's going to be, wow, these are legit fans who love what I love and not see this as a business. It's a passion, man. It really is. We do it because we love it. And then to anyone who is thinking about doing it, one of the biggest things you have to realize is just because you love it doesn't mean everybody else does. And what I mean by that is, especially when it comes to booking celebrity guests, sometimes you got to think outside the box. You can't go with someone because you love them, because there's somebody, or because you might not like them. There are a few guests that we're going to bring, hopefully in the coming future, that personally I am not the biggest fan of. I've heard interviews, and it is what it is, but I know people like them, and people want to meet them. So there's that. And then try to be as true to yourself as you can when it comes to building that show. Kind of have an idea of where you're going and a goal, and then just try to shoot for it. There is no such thing as a small show. I know a lot of people, and I've been to a lot of shows that have started out with just 10 vendors in a small, tiny room. Truth be told, that's where we started. 10 vendors at a small hotel in a tiny room. Don't be scared to chase your dream. Don't be scared to chase your passion. If it's passionate, you're passionate about it, it can happen. Again, it's just putting forth the effort. You might fail, but there again, it'll. There's no such thing as failure, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's you only learn. You only learn from it, So that would be my advice, man. Just kind of keep those things in mind.
Sweet, dude. Well, everybody, you heard this, and by the way, if we haven't said it, I don't even know if we have. Empire Comicon is the name of the con.
Yes,
and there'll be notes and links and everything for it in the show notes on here. So just be aware that that's what's up, and I wouldn't bring anybody on here just to promote a show I didn't care about or believe in, and I'm really excited about this, and I admire Hugo and Amanda's tenacity and courage in doing this, because this is a big endeavor. And I mean, it's I know we jokingly said about the risks and everything, but that's a real deal.
Oh, yeah.
And I am super proud of them for their effort and heart in it. And so I'm going to be there, going to be helping out, doing as much as I can with that. You're going to see a lot of that in the coming weeks with Faith and Fandom, just talking about it. But we'll be there. We'll be part of the Geek Church. We'll be all over the place there in Savannah. So we'd love to see you there if you are in that region. And yeah, Hugo, thanks for hanging out and chatting with me, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to come in here and talk about it, man. I really do. It's been a pleasure.
All right, dude. All right, well, everybody, you can check the show notes and everything, or the comments and stuff below on the apps or whatever, to find some details on this. And have a great night, day, or wherever you're at. Bye.
Bye, everybody.